Study yourself. Observe yourself. What does that even mean? What does it mean to study oneself? Why would you do that? What's the end goal? Today you have science. You've had science for thousands of years, but we have this hyper fixation on science and this observational interaction with this physical reality that we're in. And so science comes out of observing the physical, trying to study it. For some end result, you develop a hypothesis, right? Scientific method kind of shit that you learn in school. But how do you science yourself? How do you observe yourself? It's a lot trickier, isn't it? And if you've come across Yogananda and you've read some of his stuff, he's very, wouldn't want to say necessarily adamant, but he likes to refer to yoga, Kriya Yoga, as a science for oneself. Science of God, in a way. Your inner God. So, I haven't done a video for a few months. Haven't really felt called. I knew that it would come back, the desire to want to make a video. But I was sitting in meditation today, and this is kind of often how it happens for me, at least over the past year, and even before I started my channel, where I'm sitting in meditation or I'm very still, and then just messages start pouring in. And then I know that if there's a momentum to them, and that it's kind of, it's like a topic, I'm meant to do a video on it. So that's why I'm here. I started getting messages study yourself, observe yourself, and then I started getting a whole flood of stuff coming in. I'm like, oh, okay, it's time. It's time again to come out and shoot a video. So study oneself, observe oneself. Guys, if you've watched my previous videos, it's what I'm telling you to do through stillness and through meditation and prayer. But how often do you view it from that kind of a lens where you're I want to science this in a way. I want to sit down and literally observe myself. Because like I've said, when your focus is outside of you and you're out in the world and you're doing whatever you think you're doing, there's not a lot of space in that whole stream of, human engagement with the external reality. There's not a big stream or a cessation of a stream to stop and look, to bring awareness to you. Because it's so immersive, this reality. It's so pulling you in and you're just within it and reacting constantly. That's where we lose ourselves, guys. And so when I'm saying you've lost yourselves, we're lost in the sauce, all these different ways that I'm referring to it, it's so fucking immersive. It's a very powerful immersion. We're born into it. And it's like at what point do you have a realization? It's almost like some third party kind of shit's got to come in and say, hey man, look at yourself. Hey man, this stillness, that moment of stillness that you had, that's where it's at. Expand on that. How do I do that? I don't know. It's if you've never studied spirituality and religion has never told you to be still, where would you, where the first yogis, the first, Indians, thousands of years ago, before even, the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita and all these different scriptures, before that shit came along, even for hundreds and thousands of years before them, they were doing it. It was all oral. It was all passed down orally. Hey, the stillness stuff, that's where it's at. That's where it's at. How is that possible, sir? How is that possible? It doesn't make sense. Of course not. Not to the mind. Not to the mind. It doesn't. It's not meant to. It's not. And so if you bring someone like a scientific person, an academic, And I say, study yourself, observe yourself. They're gonna compartmentalize it and section it off, and organize it and mentally plan a routine. And it's gonna be very, very mind observational. And I want to get results, and I need it to be a pragmatic thing, and it needs to match up a certain way to my observational standards. And this spirituality shit, this stuff that you're looking for, it isn't in that stuff. That's why it's the paradox that fucks with you, because you're not sure even if you're making progress while you're doing it. It's like you feel like shit sometimes on this path, guys. You feel like shit, and then it's like, I thought this was supposed to improve some aspect of my life. Like why is it bringing on more shit to be looked at? Why am I stuck? What's my purpose? We ask these questions, right? It's like this like very existential, oh my God, philosophical, like, why am I here? Why, God, have you done this to me? Why have I incarnated? That's also helpless, like learned helplessness or victim kind of shit. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And then someone like me comes along and says, study yourself, observe yourself. You don't even know the first thing on how to do that. How did these, like I was saying earlier, how did these Indians, these yogis, even before yoga was labeled as yoga, spiritual yoga, not asana fucking bullshit yoga, union yoga, spirituality yoga, right? Before, how do they get an inspiration? They're like, this meditation shit, I have to go deeper, deeper, deeper into it. That's where the magic happens. But how do you find that conclusion? It's like you have to experiment on yourself, right? Like in my spirituality or my stillness video where I'm talking about stillness, I say, don't even look at it like work. Look at it like exploring yourself. It's like you're exploring and you're experimenting within yourself to see what happens. And this is why it flies in the face of science. It's a kind of in direct opposition to it in a way, because it's all very anecdotal and it's all very individual in a way and very personal. How you personally experience your own spirituality and stillness and how that transforms your fucking life, guys. Very powerful shit. And so I tell you, your power lies in this stillness. It's the platform, it's the base that you find, that you build, that you cultivate, right? It's been with you always, screaming out to you in a variety of ways throughout your life. Perhaps at the time you were a little too ignorant to understand that that's what was calling out to you. And then now time passes, and then you have hindsight, right? And you can look back on that event or that happening, whatever it was that was kind of weird or maybe mystical or kind of like, and you're like, whoa, that was what was calling out to me in that moment. But I kind of glossed over it, and then like the mind came back in, and I kept reacting, and I kept doing, and I kept interacting with the reality, and I kind of forgot about that temporarily. And then your mind brings it back in this moment. It's like, oh, that one time that I did that one thing that it felt kind of woo-woo and mystical and wondrous and spontaneous and free and fun. And then you don't realize that that is the exact portal and moment that you're supposed to expand into, that takes you into this realized path. And so you must study and observe that brief moment and expand within yourself, okay? So you can't expand and really immerse yourself fully in the stillness while you're busy out and about in life, because there's too much stimulus, okay? It takes a certain level of practice and mastery, bullshit labels that people throw around, right? Mastery, expert, I'm an expert in stillness, right? I'm an expert. You can't achieve the mastery as easily. You can. I mean, if you're doing constantly good deeds and feeling good and expanding and open, you can that way. But it's easier if you eliminate, kind of like the sensory stimulus in a way, the external shit. You close yourself off from it. You close your eyes, and you sit in stillness, and you focus your attention inside, and you're sitting with it inside, and you're sitting with it inside, and it's inside, and then you're like, whoa, there's this whole added dimension that I've largely been ignoring, this very, very deep well, fountain of stillness that's in me. And until you become, like I say, practiced, and it's always with you guys, okay? You know, it's this catch-22 kind of paradox shit, right? If you read enough spirituality stuff, there's a lot of lineages and teachings that are like, it's with you always. Stop trying to meditate and stop trying to achieve enlightenment. Stop trying, right? It's with you here now. Stop, recognize the stillness right now. It's here right now, and that's enlightenment, right? Okay, you can look at it that way. But to further like anchor and hunker down into it so deeply that it becomes inseparable from how you perceive, there is some practice involved in that, guys. It is fleeting. It is a bit illusory because you can't tangibly touch it. And like I say, the mind likes fixated, static, ideologies, and that's what it is in its nature, right? It likes to know, this idea of thinking that it knows, little snapshot, little fragment pieces of information. Well, this massive expansion of what you are, this massive peace and bliss and love that bubbles out of you, that's not tangible shit. Can't be observed scientifically. I mean, maybe one day, or maybe even now, you can get to a point where you're like, you develop a device that can register energy from a human, okay? But you're never going to understand how it impacts someone experientially. And this is why psychology and psychiatrists and modern scientific analysis of mental and consciousness level stuff is off. Because you think you're going to science something that is unscienceable. And I mean, guys, look at the result. Look at the result in the psychiatric community. You're going to go to therapy, or I'm going to give you a pill. Congratulations. Here's your pill. Take the pill for the rest of your life. That's the end result of that. And hopefully you don't encounter some horrific fucking side effects with these pills. Good shit. Not believing anymore, not fully grasping that you can heal yourself outside of these things. That it's possible. And that you thinking that it's not possible automatically shuts you off and cuts you off from this study and observation that will, sooner or later, heal you if you let it. What does the healing look like? It's balance. It's the balance of the polarities within you. It's the balance of the polarities. And you know what? It's so, we talk about these things so much in the spiritual community, this woo-woo community, about divine feminine and divine masculine and yin and yang and all these kinds of ideas. And you hear it so often that it's just like you kind of roll your eyes at it because you don't really appreciate the polarities, man. Because and I've talked about, like in my contradiction video, how everything is very contradictory because the very separate nature, like me and external world, and how everything is relational and physical, how that creates this kind of contradictory reality. While you're here incarnated physically, beyond the unseen, where God has made us into a dense reality, a denser reality, where there's physical and it's tangible and you can physically interact with it. While we're here temporarily, and we're gone. We come in and then in an instant we're gone. But because it's happening, moment to moment in our reality, it kind of seems longer, but no. We're like little ants. We're a little fleeting little thing, right? Physically, you're here. That's where the polarities lie. That's where it is. There's no polarities when you're unborn, when you're unmanifested physically. It's all oneness. There's no need for a mind to label the polarities. The mind is the duality, right? It's based in that. Why? Because the mind is a reflection of this physical reality in us. So it has to be dual because nature and reality is dual. Relational. So what have we done in the last hundreds of years? We've observed the fuck out of this relational yin and yang, masculine and feminine polarity. We've scienced the fuck out of it. But where has it gotten us? All it's done is transformed and shifted energies around. It's really all it's done. We went from like horse and carriage to cars. We went from like, oh, we can't fly to now we can fly. We can travel massive amounts of distances shortly. We've conquered the fucking globe. We've gone to every corner of the globe. The world is smaller and smaller and smaller and still huge, massive. We can't even like fully grasp how massive it is. It's like you have to almost physically go out into the wilderness to see this massive expanse to realize how massive this world is. But because our minds are so fixed, we can just limit this earth that is so massive. And then you take the earth and how comparatively small it is compared to like Jupiter or Saturn or the sun, right? You can fit thousands and millions of Earths in like these these planets, right? Or the sun. And then you expand on it and expand on it. And it's like, oh my God, how big is this space? The final frontier, right? Like space and galaxies. Billions of millions of galaxies, trillions of, that's how massive God is. We're nothing, okay? So we're observing these things scientifically. So today we're here today, right? If someone's like, hey, observe and study. Well, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna read my book and I'm gonna learn from the professor and I'm gonna take my notes and I'm gonna fill up my mind with all kinds of ideologies and knowledge. And this is the most fucked up and ironic thing, is that the more and more and more and more and more and more you do that, you're getting further and further and further away from yourself. And that's why it fucks you up. Because all of this conditioned shit that you've learned along the way in the entire history of your life is almost the exact opposite. It's this like entrenched, entrained thing that you learn and become, and you attach and you attach and you attach all these things that you think you are through knowledge and ideas and whatever, conditioning, right? Nationality and religion and experiences and you know, anything that we become conditioned through. We think that's us. We get lost in that whole cycle. And then someone comes along and says, study and observe yourself to get outside of these things. And you don't even know the first thing on how or what that may or may not look like. I'm talking about the untrained person that's never come across this spiritual shit that I'm talking about, right? Okay. So you first get a taste. You're this like uninitiated, you know, like never, I don't even know what the spirituality shit is. I don't even, you're atheist. You're like, I don't buy into religion or anything. And I've cut myself off from anything that's unseen and unobservable, right? Scientific, unscientific. Okay. And then I say, be scientific about your personal, interpersonal, transformational, observational you. Like be scientific about that. How do you do that? Well, it'd be like something like a yoga that Yogananda talks about. It's a personal science now. It's a personal observation. It's a personal study. You know, it's kind of like Marcus Aurelius with his meditations. You have like this very super philosophical person existing in ancient Rome. And he would write his meditations. He would write his observations on life. And it was very mind. But there was a lot of stillness there too. Because it's like you guys, you're never gonna fully eliminate the mind. And you're never always gonna be perfectly still. It can't be that way because you're physical here, you're incarnated. But you're oscillating and transitioning between the two polarities of those things within you. So one is stillness and one is mind. One is masculine and one is feminine. Which one is which? Well, mind is going to be more masculine, and stillness is going to be more feminine. Right? Action and rest. give and take. And so we're very hyper masculine. Even throughout humanity's history, we're very masculine, patriarchy dominating, right? There isn't enough appreciation for the stillness and the feminine polarity. And that's why we have this like opposite, the pendulum swinging into the other hyper feminist kind of movement, because women feel the need to kind of reclaim that power. Yeah, I mean, it's a logical conclusion that's going to happen. If you feel oppressed and suppressed for your entire fucking existence in history, basically, and you can look on it, back on it, and like, man, this is kind of fucked up. These men have been dominating women and telling women they can't be this way, and like the very way that they exist and manifest and express themselves in life is wrong. Yeah, of course you're gonna feel like shit. Just like how today trans people or non-binary people or gay people, how they express themselves, just the isness and how they're born and how they're meant to experience their lives, that's wrong. Because we have so much hyper masculine kind of active mental baggage shit that we're carrying from past generations. Yeah, that's fucked up. When you come across enough woo-woo shit on YouTube, as an example, and you hear modern psychological terms that are used today in spirituality, it's like they kind of bleed in and feed each other, right? It's kind of like how you can have science feed into spirituality. Like you'll have someone like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's like, everything's super quantum and vibration and frequency. It's kind of like law of attraction kind of shit. It makes you kind of sound like an idiot, because you're trying to bring in super scientific terms into spirituality where it doesn't really super mix. And it makes you sound less credible, and it makes you sound more woo-woo and insane. Same thing with law of attraction shit. It's like, no, we can observe these things. Everything's law and law of attraction and very vibration and frequency and quantum. Woo, right? Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. And you keep talking that way. At least you're going to be labeled that way. It's all quantum. It's all quantum. And so the thing I was about to say was, with some psychological kind of shit, we have intergenerational trauma. Generational trauma. And so then you'll watch videos like, I don't know, prophetic word videos or tarot readings or law of attraction videos or anything where like someone thinks that there's some kind of spokesperson. They're like, I had an awakening and now I'm a spokesperson for God, and like, like these people. And they're talking about generational trauma because they heard it from some psychological shit. And we're studying generational trauma and how these things are passed. Well, duh. What do you think you're inheriting from your parents? What learned behaviors do you think? What do you think karma is? When I'm telling you, go into stillness and burn the karma, the shit that they have been speaking about for thousands of years. And now modern science thinks that they're labeling it a certain way, and all you're doing is taking something like karma and changing the word to make it sound more scientific so that it's more appealing and appeasing and appetizing to the modern scientific mind that we've built up. It's more credible today. If I talk about generational trauma, oh yeah, what does that look like? Psychologist, psychiatrist, tell me what that looks like. Scientific person, because you're so studied and knowing in these things. And then some yogi talks about karma. No, that's woo-woo shit. That's bullshit. It's not scientific enough for my mind. You silly bitch. It's all observational, guys. It's all study. If I'm out in the world and I see someone, I'm studying them. I'm looking at them. I'm observing them. And the truest power lies when you finally do merge and you realize yourself as everything and everything is you, and you bring the polarities into balance, and this whole hermeticism and mysticism and alchemical shit that we've talked about. When you learn all these things and you see how they manifest in your life, then you just see, and then you just know. Because the stillness is so powerful that it makes it known instantly. because you've let go of this mind so much. You've let go of it. It's like it comes in as it needs to, like I say. It labels stuff if it needs to so that you can use words and express these things. But because, like, you know, I've talked about in my spontaneity video and my intuition video where you're like, now you're 90% routine and mind, and you need to flip that and make it 10% mind and like 90% intuition and stillness, right? When that whole process, that whole transformative process finally happens in you, and you're resting in this like, these are arbitrary labels, guys. I'm telling you. It's not, Darius said that it's 90% and 10%. And so, guys, I feel like I'm at 85%, but I haven't reached the 90% yet, guy. You see what I'm saying? Like, you see how you can take a teaching and turn it into some weird dogma. It doesn't work that way, guys. These are all pointers. People like racking themselves, like watching videos and all this shit, and they're like, I'm trying to achieve this, I'm trying to get to this, I'm trying. They said it looks like this, but it doesn't really look like this, but I don't know. And it's like, trust yourself, man. Trust your own intuitive observation of yourself. So when you get to this 90% place where it's like 90%, 95%, 91%, 89% intuition and spontaneity and expansion into the moment where life happens, when you get to that place, that's where the knowing happens, man. That's where the nature of reality, truth, reveals itself to you finally. Not just in glimpses, not just little snapshot pieces of information. No, it is always playing out around you. And it flows effortlessly. Effortlessly. You're not trying anymore. You're not trying to achieve a perfect meditative state of stillness so that I can finally have my enlightenment, so that I can finally understand these things that these spiritual people are talking about. All masturbatory bullshit. It looks like this, it looks like that. Do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. Live this way, don't live this way. How about I realize this shit for myself, and then I live in balance with myself? Why did I spend all this time finally bringing these polarities into balance if I'm not going to be able to like choose for myself what I'm meant to do and how I'm meant to live? Arbitrary rules that civilizations and tribes and states and city-states and whatever that it's like oppressive shit. You must do this. You must fast on this day. You must observe this day as the Sabbath. You must, eat meat or don't eat meat. You must do this, or it's like silly shit. All of it. You do what you do, and then you observe and study yourself. And then if you don't have the desired consequential effects of whatever it is that you think you're trying to do or achieve, then you modify your behavior until you achieve the desired result. That's what Buddha did. That's what Buddha did. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go look for the truth. He left, his princely life, his kingship shit life. He left that. He left his wife and his kid behind, or kids, however, I don't know if he had multiple kids. And he's like, I'm going to go search for this truth. Okay. He encounters some people along the way. A couple of guys kind of become guru figures to him, and they're teaching him stuff, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. This isn't it. It's just not feeling right. Okay. He literally like starves himself, like withers to nothing, right? Like he's like so ascetic in his practice. He so detaches from the physical that he stops eating as much as he needs. He stops interacting physically as much as he needs. And he's like, oh, that's not it either. That's too extreme in the polarity of feminine, of not. And then he's like, you know what? Oh, fuck this shit, bro. Fuck this. I'm sick of this. Like I've been like wandering around these forests, like these jungles in India, been wandering around searching for this truth, and it hasn't come yet. And I've tried all these different like things. I've tried these different things. I've come across different people and different stuff. And he's like, this isn't it. None of it has been it. Okay, how am I gonna do it? How am I gonna do it? And then I don't know. I don't know how it came to him. Maybe God sent him like a little message, or it was just like an intuitive intuition, an intuitive nudging, an instinct. I'm gonna sit under this tree, and I'm gonna meditate until it comes. And I mentioned in my devotion video, or some other video, that's a hardcore devotion, isn't it, guys? If you say I'm gonna sit under a tree and I'm not going to get up from here until you show me this truth that I've been searching and seeking after. However long it takes, I don't care. I'll die. You know, I'll like that's some. Think about it, guys. If you go into the wilderness like Jesus did, or sit under a tree like Buddha did, you are risking your physical safety. You are literally willing to give up your life, within this samsara kind of birth and death cycle, right? Like we're born and then I die and then the physical comes to an end, as far as that's concerned, right? Because there is no true death. Or there can be the death within the living, which is kind of like an ego death or whatever you want to label it. But I'm saying you are risking your own physical safety. You're willing to like I don't give a fuck about the physical. That's how devoted I am to finding this truth. Sometimes it takes a level of extreme devotion that you're not ready for at this particular stage of life that you're going through. And so what was Buddha doing? He was studying and observing himself that whole time, trying different routes, different paths, different whatever you want to call it. And then all of those experiences that he was going through, all the language, all the knowledge he was accumulating throughout his life, that was his conditioned shit. And then when it finally came time for him to start speaking about these things, he was speaking these things in terms of all of the things that he learned mentally to express them through language. And it's all very philosophical, and it's all very long and like drawn out, you know. I like how if you read the sutras enough, he repeats himself over and over again, he'll say like this one massive like long convoluted sentence, with a bunch of words, and then he repeats the same sentence structure in the next sentence and the next sentence and the next sentence. It's all very philosophical, and it's like we with our minds we have this tendency to take things so literally, not understanding that these are all just pointers. So sit down and study yourself, observe yourself. How are you going to do that? There's a lot of different ways, obviously, but I always harp on meditation and prayer because it's what I've found to be the most powerful and succinct way of doing it. And a lot of masters that have come before us have also reached those same conclusions. This whole yoga tradition, even like in the last hundreds of years, even with Kriya Yoga, they're very hardcore about this meditation shit. And then all of these religions, most of them are talking about prayer. It's obvious, man. It's obvious. It's just like it gets kind of lost, It's like the Library of Alexandria, where supposedly all of the Earth's knowledge and tomes upon tomes of books and scrolls and all this of all of the ancient knowledge that we had, and it was lost in a fire. It burned down, right? And then we wonder today, oh, how much has been lost? How much knowledge did we have? What if we didn't lose those things? How much further along would we be? It's like, do you think that shit wasn't all divinely orchestrated and known it was going to happen that way, and that we are not exactly where we're meant to be? I think we're doing fine. I think we have science the fuck out of our lives, right? A lot of good shit in science, man. Vaccines and like, medical cures and the cutting edge of science is amazing. Amazing, okay? But the one thing I emphasize is like we're too far in this extreme because it invites an overinflation of a mind. That's why there's so much mental illness. And then we think the panacea, that the cure for mental illness lies in psychiatry. Yeah, it can help. A lot of it, sure, it'll mask some symptoms, and the occasional person will sure you'll heal yourself a little bit, and you'll feel a little better, and you'll have some improvement, sure. But you've never fully gone deep enough to heal yourself and master yourself, if you want to call it that. Because it's too woo-woo and spiritual. There's no truth there for these people. It's like, how could the stillness and how could meditation and prayer possibly bring about a desired effect? If you go on enough forums and you're like reading stuff, like let's say you go on Reddit and everybody just kind of casually laughs at these religious people that are just, oh, they're praying and oh, they're so silly and it's a mental illness. Oh, they think, yeah, okay, fine. It's because these people that are trying to do whatever religion and prayer, they think they're also lost. They're also idiots. Because they just blindly believe a religion and a dogma and don't actually do what the religion and dogma is trying to point you to, the deeper truths of yourself. It takes a huge level of like devotion and extreme wanting and desire to think about it, man. There's so much distraction out there in life now with anything that you can possibly do in this physical reality. To not get caught up in all of that shit and then like literally set aside time, big portions of your day where you're just sitting, going inside. That's fucking crazy. No one does this shit, guys. I mean, yeah, like you go to the monastery and you go to like some nunnery. Yeah, the nuns and the monks and whoever. Yeah, they're doing this shit, obviously. But I'm saying, like they say in the yoga traditions, right? Or like in Hindu, the householder, right? The person that is of the world, the person that has the family and goes to work and does a job and learns a profession and earns money and does that whole play of form and life, however it may look in their lives, within the context of that reality for that person, it's extremely rare for you to set aside time for true spirituality and stillness, isn't it? This shit isn't like willy-nilly given out by God to people. Like, here's your realization and an awakening, your final clarity. You'll have some glimpses, you'll have an awakening, and you'll have some whatever, and you still may be months and years away from really getting this shit and settling and like really rooting yourself in this that you are. There might be this whole, that's just the beginning. You're like, I had my awakening. Now I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm just so fucking spiritual. You don't, the first fucking clue. You're a fucking charlatan and a clown that you think you know and you have no fucking clue. And I'm going to sit down to some like 22-year-old guy or girl that like, oh, it's this vibes and aura and cool. And they don't have the first fucking clue. That's how I was when I was 22 and 25. And if I had started a YouTube channel, I would have been the biggest hypocrite and charlatan, trying to think that I knew shit. And all it was spiritual ego. You don't know shit. Oh, look at you, Darius. You think you're so much better. No, guys. That's what the humility brings in. A recognition of the charlatan. A recognition of the nonsense. Study yourself. Observe yourself. Sit with yourself. Like I was just about to say, it's not given out willy-nilly. You have to want it more than anything. You have to, like Buddha, Jesus, almost be willing to die for it. You give up everything. You go through hell for it. That's what it means. That's what the descent into hell is. That's what like the shadow is. That's what like looking and like when you become the spiritual warrior, when you learn the play of light and dark, and you know, when I have the video of the darkness cannot know the light, it is blind, deaf, and dumb. When you are having these realizations, when you're in the muck, when you're grinding out this reality, when you're in it, deep in the depths of hell, and you're wondering, why am I going through all this fucking purgatory shit? You asked for that, motherfucker. You need that contrast. You need to experience that shit. It's how you learn. It isn't like, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh my God, if God was such a good God, oh, why is everyone suffering? You fucking idiot. Of course that suffering's needed. Why does the kid get cancer? Why are they starving in Africa? Oh my God. Why is Gaza happening? Oh my God, the injustices. Why? Oh, look at you, Darius. You're making fun of and laughing. No. I'm making fun of the idiots that don't understand that these things are needed. They exist. There is a genius behind their existence. And you could never fucking possibly know the full spectrum of why they exist that way. And the one or two reasons or ideologies that you casually attribute to some reality, you think you achieved something through one or two deductions of this mind. And there's billions upon billions of reasons that you could never know, that is only known in God's eye. And the only thing that you might ever glimpse is, hey man, I just don't know. I just don't know. So, and I'm okay with not knowing, because I trust the genius. I trust the God. I have faith that it's all being divinely orchestrated. And then you start seeing the miracle, and you start moving with the miracle through enough study and observation.